Happy Friday, Bills Mafia. Welcome to yet another episode of Friday Night Forecast. I am your host, Travis Blakesley. And as always, I got my two friends here. We'll start with Herm. They play to win the game, Buffalonian. How you doing, Herm?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Looking forward to Kansas City and Buffalo Bills.
That's right. And back from his Northern Territory excursion, we have Evan Zinger. How you doing, Evan?
I am doing fantastic, Travis. And I have said wedding tomorrow, so I'm not particularly. Well, I'm nervous about it, even though I'm not the one getting married.
No, just wait till you are the one. Well, we're happy to have you back. Cody filled in nice for you, but we got the crew back together. All right, for the uninitiated, here on the Friday Night Forecast, we give you our breakdown, takes, predictions, stat lines, you name it, for the upcoming game. And this week, we're going to be diving into what is probably everyone's most anticipated matchup. We finally get our shot at revenge against the Kansas City Chiefs after losing to them twice last year, once in the AFC Championship. If you're out there watching, we would love if you like, subscribe, and share. Just get more views, more traffic, and if you're not able to watch live, you can always catch us on any audio podcast platform. Just search for the Cold Front Report, and you can get all of our shows. We'll keep pumping out a couple shows per week. So, send us a nice review. Check us out there. Let's get into last week's game, the 40-0 thumping of Houston. What more can you say? It was a little rough in the beginning, a little turbulent, but overall, I believe we got the outcome we all anticipated. Dominant defensive performance, great run game, which I know a lot of Bills fans out there are kind of slamming the table for. So we'll get into Allen's performance. How did we think he bounced back after that adversity, Herm?
I think he did a great job. He took what they gave him. He hit a couple of long balls, but he looked good. I was very impressed and happy from a personal standpoint. But I thought he did a great job in bouncing back from what looked like a couple of mediocre games. And there were a couple instances in this particular game. I think mentioned to you guys a little bit earlier before we came on the air. They tell me I'm greedy because I thought we should have put up 60 in terms of finishing drives, but he did a great job, and I'm looking forward to him having an outstanding game Sunday.
Yeah, like you said, it's not the fastest start to the season, but I really appreciated the way he kind of reeled it in. The weather got a little better as the game went on. Evan, you believe that the weather had anything to do with that start, or is that just another one, the crowd? Can we put into the not being able to play with fans? Can Josh Allen not play under inclement weather as well?
Well, I think some of it you could argue is with the weather, and some of it you could just argue is Josh being Josh. And holy crap, my hair is like freaking poking up at the end here. That's freaking awful. My bad. But no, like there were a couple plays I saw from him that you couldn't really attribute to the weather, which I really didn't like. He had that he couldn't, the one snap he couldn't handle from Mitch Morse, where it was Allen like pulling back early. It wasn't like a miscommunication. It was just on Allen. It's another thing. You're not always going to get away with those. And then there was the really bad pass that was almost picked off by Christian Kirksey in the end zone there. That's that he tried to float into Gabe Davis. But he made his usual like stupid, really good throws, especially the one where he ran around like a chicken around like the 40-yard line and then threw it like 50 yards down, like air yards down the field to Diggs. And he cleaned up his game as it went further on, I would say, by terms of solely by terms of like a mechanical standpoint, an accuracy standpoint, because nowadays I feel like when Josh makes a mistake, it's not to do with his accuracy, it's to do with his decision making. And that's something I still want to see improve.
Yeah, you bring up great points. Also, I'd like to add that little QB sneak that turned into a 15, 16-yard gain.
That was a blast. That was a fun play.
Yeah.
That was savvy, and I think he ended up on angry runs for the DDT of that Houston player.
It's a bulldog, okay? It's a bulldog.
Yeah, they're bulldog. Yeah. Moving on, the O-line, we had a shakeup. We got to see our first start from Spencer Brown, and obviously Ike Buckhurst subbed in there for John Feliciano. But the move to get rid of Ford and Darrell Williams inside, I'll start you. I'll kick it over to you, Evan. How did you like first of all, the personnel decision to move on, and how do you think they performed?
Well, first off, I think they performed. I'll say they performed poor to who they played against. Like, I think they overall performed like okay, but still not anything great. My opinion of Spencer Brown, probably the same, I would say. My bigger concern here, and of course I'm going to find any way to just crap on Cody Ford as much as I can, but and granted, this is partly due to Brandon Beane in the front office not finding any solid guard depth or anything like that, is that if you bench Cody Ford, you basically messed up or took a massive gamble on that entire side of your line, because you're shifting Darrell Williams over. He in particular I thought played not well at all. Because right tackle is by far his more comfortable position. And then Spencer Brown is, another raw athletic project. You can't expect him to be spectacular by his fourth active game. So yeah, like, again, I guess this is just more of a front office thing at this point. The fact that, yeah, they nuked that entire side now.
Yeah, I was not surprised. This offense, or this, I don't know if it's the offensive line coach, McDermott, whoever has their hand in who plays and who doesn't. This isn't the first time they've shooken up the offensive line on a moment's notice. Herm, how do you feel Spencer Brown? Oh, actually, let me phrase it this way. Do you believe that this move was more indicative of the poor play of Cody Ford, or do you think Spencer Brown has been ascending?
Well, I think it's a combination of both, actually. The Spencer Brown, as Evan just said, he's a raw talent, but he played pretty well. But I mean, and it's relative to the competition that he was dealing with last Sunday. It wasn't like you were playing the Steelers' offensive line, but for a raw talent, I do think he's ascending. Obviously, he's a tremendous physical specimen, but Cody Ford sitting him down and moving Williams over to guard, as Evan said, because it's not his natural position and not where I think he performs best. Also in agreement with Evan there, because I'm coming in on the right side, but you basically converted that whole side of the offensive line. And hopefully, I look at it kind of almost as an experiment, and we could afford to do that with in the Texans. So it's going to be interesting Sunday night to see where we go forward from that in terms of the decision making, who's going to start. I think because Feliciano is back, I think he's ready to play as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go from there, because Kansas City has a couple of talented pass rush. Well, we'll talk about injuries later, but it'll be interesting to see what line they put together Sunday night. So yeah. It's going to be I'm curious.
If I could add something, I
Sure.
do feel like if everyone was healthy, the line last week, and I'm hoping the line this week would be Dawkins, Feliciano, Morse, Butker, Williams, as opposed to shifting Williams over and then starting Brown. Because, like, I do like Brown. It's just that, and you can talk about whether he's ready all or not, like, really you want to. It's just that you just it's much more easy just to do like a straight swap by terms of positions, because if you're going to end up wasting a position, right?
Well, I mean, Bakker for some reason is only staying on the left side. There might be something behind that we don't know.
And Feliciano played all right side last year, so
yeah, no, the Feliciano, you're right. I'm of the mind that regardless of Feliciano's status, I don't think he's going to start. We saw it with Mitch Morris last year. He was healthy, and they had Feliciano start at center for that first game back. I don't know why. McDermott doesn't really go into it, but I'm of the mind that Bakker is going to be your left guard, whether it's for the detriment or the betterment of the team. I don't really like Williams at guard. He just doesn't seem like he doesn't have that body type, and like you said, his history, he has a track record of his best position being right tackle. So.
Yeah.
So
sorry, one more thing I do want to add. I'm obviously a very, very big value for your position kind of guy, based on like cap hit per year, salary, all that kind of stuff. I don't feel, considering how much they're paying Williams, I don't feel like that's somewhere you try to play him for the rest of the year if you're paying him, because I think they're playing nearly like 10 million this year, something like that.
I mean, if he was elite guard, I wouldn't mind it, but he's not.
So. But he's not, right? Like you're playing, like you're either playing him or you're paying him to be a very good tackle. So keep playing him at tackle.
Well, then, that's why I brought up, is it Spencer Brown? Is he doing something in I would hope so. I wouldn't want to just shuffle it just to shuffle. If Spencer Brown earned a starting spot, if he's one of the best 5 linemen, I mean, he's certainly not playing guard. There's no way that.
No, he's too big.
Be playing guard.
Yeah,
he's too tall. But we'll see. And I'm sure we'll revisit this next week. But moving on to the run game, we were 1 yard shy of a 200-yard rushing game. I thought this was one of the first games where I think we nailed the split between Moss and Motor. I thought it was, and Motor had that one big run that got called back. Now, would he have had it if there wasn't that holding penalty? Who knows? But I thought that there was a real great symmetry between the two. Evan, what do you think of the run game, and do you expect to see more of it this week?
I can't say I'm going to expect to see more of the run game this week. Honestly, a lot of it depends on who gets the ball first, because I think that basically whoever scores first, the other team's going to kind of start to panic, and it's like, okay, it's going to be this kind of game, isn't it? And then they're just going to throw the ball constantly, and then they're going to try to get the running backs into the passing game, which bodes well for Moss, not as much for Singletary, because he's, if I'm being generous, he's a liability out of the backfield catching the ball, I would say. And Moss is decent enough. So I'm not going to expect the same kind of run pass split compared to last week. Granted, I'm hoping we do, because I'm hoping that we pass constantly to begin the game, blow them out, and then just run the rest of the game. But I know realistically that's not going to happen. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Herm, how did you like our attack regarding the run game last week?
Oh, our run game was fantastic. I think, as you said, the symmetry between Moss and Motor, as you call Singletary, it was great. The substitutions between the two based on situations was great. Singletary had the big run call back for the holding penalty, but Moss made some nice catches. I think the run game was very important. And now, okay, on the Kansas City, on that note with the run game, I'm going to move on there. I think, and this was reading and taking a look at last year, especially the first game with Kansas City when they ran for 245 on us. And I read some other things that both teams kind of will mirror the strategy. Both of our passing games are very, very potent. So consequently, the linebackers or the back seven, if you want to call that, you're not going to stack the box, which allows you to run if you can. So I think we're going to have some opportunities to run the ball. They did last year. They controlled the ball on us in that first game. Second game, in the championship game, we only ran the ball 18 times. And Josh threw 48, I think. He threw 48 times. So I believe we can run the ball on them because the pass, we love the pass, and so does Kansas City. So it's going to present some opportunities in the run game, I think, for some big gains and also to control the ball.
It'll certainly be interesting to see. It's something I'm looking forward to. But let's move on to the defensive side from last week. So I led this topic with no Poyer, no problem. Herm, as you know, I mentioned I was very intrigued to see what life after one of these starting safeties would be like. And I won't say they didn't, it was to the same level, but it didn't seem to miss a beat against an inferior opponent. Evan, what did you think of Jaquan Johnson, Cam Lewis, overall those young guys in the defensive backfield really stepping up?
Oh, I loved what I saw from Cam Lewis in particular, sort of coming in for Taron Johnson, because, of course, last year he did start a game, played outside corner against the Titans, I believe, and got picked on all game. I think he was matched up against, I want to say A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown.
Was it A.J.? Nope. Well, or maybe it was Corey. It was either A.J. Brown or back when they had Corey Davis, because Corey Davis was really good last year.
I think it was A.J. Brown. Yeah, he killed him.
Yeah, it's like you just can't work with that. But if you're matching up against, an offense like the Texans, their starting slot receiver, it's like it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. And I always have love for a corner that utilizes the peanut punch. So I was absolutely loving that play, that fumble that he forced.
Yeah, it's great to have some guy on the practice squad that we need a starter. You're up. Yeah. It was good to see. Herm, you got anything maybe on Jaquan Johnson? How'd you like his play?
I loved it. He played well. As you said earlier, you emphasized last week, you talked about the future, what the future would look like in terms of if we can't pay Poyer or Hyde. And also you said it was going to give us an opportunity to take a look at the future. I think the future is bright. Jaquan Johnson played well. He got a pick on the tip. And Cam, as Evan said, he initiated the fumble with a great play. And I thought overall, Jaquan Johnson looked really good back there. But as you said, okay, you have to look at who we're playing. But fitting into the scheme, I think he did an outstanding job. So I was happy.
Yeah, you see a lot of pre-snap movement, communication out of this defense, and it didn't look anything out of the ordinary. Nobody really looked confused. And that even goes to say, I mean, they're not doing anything spectacular in the fourth quarter, but when all the backups are in, I mean, this is a unit that is the backups are a part of this team, and it goes to show. They're not just replacement players; they're guys who can actually play and they understand what's going on in the system. And to take that a step further, we haven't made a 53-man roster move at all, so it goes to show that this coaching staff is comfortable with the guys they have. The last thing we'll bring up about last week's game, which will segue us into injuries. Matt Milano's hamstring. Evan, would you please donate one or both of your hamstrings to Matt Milano?
My hamstrings are already weak enough. He's not going to make much use out of them. He might as well, and there's like no meat on them either, so he might just have to take my entire leg, to be fair, to get enough muscle to reconstruct it properly.
Yeah, Herm, it's the soft tissue. You play through bumps and bruises, breaks even, but these soft tissue injuries, specifically the hamstring, we know how Buffalo deals with them. I think it shows us a glimmer of hope that he was out there on Friday, because we know if he didn't practice Friday, he was not playing. How are you feeling about Matt Milano and his questionable status for Sunday's game?
Well, reading the injury report earlier today, they said he had a full practice. He's listed as questionable. So, as you just said, if he's out there and you practice, because Thursday I think he was just kind of a spectator, and I think that was just basically to give his hamstring more time to rest. But if he's a warrior and he's playing extremely well, and I would think he really wants to be on the field for this game of all our games so far, and even games moving in the future. That let's see how he is. And I think they're going to put him out there, and then if he can't perform, AJ Klein will see more time as he did last week.
Yeah, it's frustrating because unfortunately these are injuries that you can't rush.
That's right.
You know, your risk of re-injuring is high and for a lot longer a period of time. So let's get into that injury report. For the Buffalo Bills, it's long, but it's cleaned up a bit towards the end of the week. So as of right now, all we have is Jaquan Jones, Matt Milano, and AJ Epinesa, all questionable.
Right.
Limited participant. I mean, a limited participant could mean they sat out for one play. You know, they could have practiced 99% of the practice, but one play they sat out. So,
and if someone's a full practice and then they're still questionable, that's basically old school probable, really.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
You do the math, right?
Yeah.
For the Chiefs, they are getting healthy. Chris Jones was their only did not practice on Friday with a wrist. Their I believe it was Andy Reid who just said that he just needs time to heal. So a lot of people are saying that he'll be good to go for the game, but you know, not practicing Friday is not a great sign. And cornerback Charvarius Ward. They're getting back Rashad Fenton. It looks like Frank Clark is going to make his first appearance of the year, I believe.
After another hamstring.
Yeah.
He had a hamstring, yeah.
So, I mean, at the beginning of the week, it looked like we were both trending in the wrong directions. You know, Buffalo was getting banged up while Kansas City was getting a lot of their defensive players back. I'm not sure how much that will play into things, but, you know, with that, let's get into our opponent. So, as always, we'll just go over the overall stats and rankings. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, their overall offensive stats are 33.5 points per game. That's second. I believe we're tied, right?
Yep.
I think we're tied with them. They are converting 64.1% on third down, which is first by a mile. I mean, that's an incredible number. 428 yards per game. That's second in the league. 130 rush yards, which is eighth, and 297 pass yards per game, which is fifth. So now we flip to the complete other end of the spectrum, going with their defense. They're giving up 31 points a game. That's 31st in the league. 438 yards a game, 31st in the league. 146 rushing yards. That's 30th in the league. And 292 pass yards, which is 27th in the league. I mean, it's the night and day regarding their offense and defense. Their head coach, Andy Reid, he's got a career win-loss total of 223 wins and 133 losses and one tie. I mean, this is a homegrown coaching tree. He's got 10 coaches under him who are or were head coaches. So you got a fantastic offense, an abysmal defense, and, you know, Hall of Fame head coach and Andy Reid. Herm, you're the big stat guy here. I know you got your numbers ready. Give us a couple stats on some of the playmakers on offense, whether it be Mahomes, Hill, or Kelsey.
Well, last week, Tyreek, 11 catches for 186 yards. That speaks for itself. Mahomes threw for about 343, something like that, which, and that was the Philadelphia game. That game actually was pretty close for a while. I think they broke it open late in the third and into the fourth quarter, which kind of surprised me. Philadelphia's defense did a decent job, but He hit some long balls to a long ball in particular to Tyreek. Kelsey didn't. He was there. Tyreek was obviously 186 yards or 100 whatever it was, and buck 80. He was the man, but 11 catches in and of itself. They Hilaire ran for over 100 yards. I think he averaged 6 or 7 yards a carry, which is phenomenal to go along with that passing game. And especially looking at what he did to us in that first game last year, he ran for 161 yards. So Mahomes is going to be Mahomes, but at some point in time. But I think defensively, it's hard to shut them down. They're obviously not the backup quarterback of Houston. They're not the backup at Miami, but I believe it's our time. I believe our defense can, if we can shut down. Tyreek Hill had 3 catches against us in the first game last year for 20 yards. Kelsey had 5 catches for 65 yards, but they ran the ball for 245 yards. So that's our mission, to stop. Mahomes only threw for 225 in that first game. So the run game, I mean, obviously they had great balance. You threw for 225 and you ran for 243 yards on us, and that kind of speaks for itself. So tomorrow or Sunday night, I'd like to shut down that run game first and foremost, and because he's going to throw the ball. That's what he does, just like Josh does for us. So that's my feeling.
Yeah. He regarding Mahomes, I mean, you got a 72.7 completion percentage. He's getting what was really interesting is he's getting the ball out much quicker this year. I think 2.7 seconds.
Right.
And when he gets the ball out under 2.5 seconds, he is 90% completion percentage. I mean, that's hard to defend. On the other side, when he holds onto the ball for longer than that, it drops down to 46%. So, that's a huge difference between the two.
Sure.
So yeah, it's going to be tough. Evan, we all know Kelsey Hill makes this team go. Anyone outside of those 3, and maybe give me your thoughts on Gordon, getting his first start in this offense.
I'm not going to say much about Gordon because I think he's just a player that's, people sort of overreact about because they're still basing it off like their current opinion off of, I guess it was like 2013 was his last like really big season. Like just because he hasn't really played or long term since then doesn't mean all that skill is still the same. They put him on the practice squad initially for a reason. So I think, people are overhyping Josh Gordon and the impact he's going to have. The bigger concern I have with the Chiefs, and this is if I was talking as a Chiefs fan, would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire and the run game in general. Not because it's particularly bad, but because they've been running the ball an awful lot on early downs compared to last year. And even though they've been great on converting third downs, if you have more of them, that's going to be just a net negative thing, regardless of how many of them you convert. So their offense sort of thrives on getting chunk plays or even 6, 7, 8 yard gains on first down, being able to run the ball on second, or as I usually like to do, if it's like 2nd and 1, that's when you take your shot down the field, because if you wildly miss, it's 3rd and 1 and you can run the ball or do a short little play action pass if you want to. By terms of like actual other playmakers on their offense, mainly those that the trio are who I'm concerned about.
Yeah, Pringle has a couple flashes here and there. Obviously, Mecole Hardman is a speedster, but outside of those 3, there's definitely a drop off in production. I believe no one else has above 10 targets outside of, the main two. And you brought up a good point about them running on first down, because I mean, compared to what Mahomes can do with the ball in his hands, it's definitely going to be a net negative when you're running the ball. I want to kick it right back to you, Evan, with the offensive line. I believe this is probably the best offensive line we're going to face. They've, everyone kind of teased the Chiefs about, kind of Frankensteining a line together, but they have solid veterans. They're two rookies have been playing great, and they have their weak link is not very, he's not bad at right tackle. You got anything on the offensive line?
I would say that by terms of like parts of the offensive line, I would definitely agree that it's probably going to be the best one they play all year, especially with Joe Tooney, and then Creed Humphrey has been incredible at center for them, but their tackles have really struggled, and particularly after they traded that first for Orlando Brown Jr., seeing him struggle is very interesting to me. I remember in the offseason there was the whole thing about, no, I'm a left tackle. You got to pay me like left tackle, and I'm only going to play left tackle. So they trade him to a team. They play him exclusively at left tackle, and then he ends up being significantly worse than he was at right tackle. But yeah, he hasn't been playing very good, and the other tackle spot hasn't been playing very good either. So I think if there's a game that's like necessary for the edge defenders to take advantage of the tackles, it would be this one, because you're not going to get much pressure up the middle. And if Mahomes has pressure from the side, he has shown that he at times will panic and sort of start taking off. But usually it's not a bad thing for a quarterback to keep your eyes down the field, but I feel like he's almost becomes oblivious at times to the pressure around him. Like he will run into sacks. Instead of like holding the ball too long and taking the sack, he will directly run into a sack, I found.
Yeah, and sometimes I watched a couple of plays where he has room to step up into the pocket, and instead he drifts right into the guy his tackles are blocking, and kind of, like he's bailing a little bit too early. We saw a little bit of that of Josh Allen in his first year.
Yeah, it must suck being a tackle in that regard, because it's like you win your rep, but it's no, you win your rep, but it's still going to show up on the stat sheet like you gave up the sack. It's like, what the heck?
Right.
No, I didn't.
That's right.
Well, and you don't even know where your quarterback is either. It's like he could be behind you. Herm, how do you think our defensive line is going to attack Kansas City's offensive line?
Well, I agree with Evan there. Their tackles, Kansas City's given up 7 sacks so far this year. And we know Mahomes is an escape artist to a degree. He's elusive, but at the same time, you made a great point. As he drifts, sometimes he drifts. If he doesn't get rid of the ball, as you made the point earlier, in 2.6 or 7 seconds, whatever the 10th was, he drops down to 46%. And the fact of the matter is, he's been sacked 7 times. Even as tough as it is to get to him, but they've been coming on the edges. So I believe Russo, Boogie played well last week. Boogie Basham, there were a couple of plays I was reading that McDermott said he liked to take back, but Epinesa is a little bit questionable on the edges. And Jerry Hughes is there, but I believe we have an opportunity Sunday to put some pressure on them coming on the edges. I agree with Evan coming up the middle. I don't really think that's not the optimal place where we're going to get him or put pressure on him. But I believe that we can get around those tackles and make him make some throws or hold it a little bit to get to that 46% completion by holding the ball a little bit longer.
There's one thing I do want to add. I just was able to pull up this chart here. I'll read the ones for Allen as well. It's the percentage of pressures that are charged of each quarterback that are charged to each member on the line. So for Mahomes, you got 24% for the left tackle, 26% for the right tackle, and then for left guard is 6%, center is 2%, and right guard is 15%. So it's very clear you got to take advantage of the tackles in this regard. But the big thing is that Patrick Mahomes himself is responsible for 26% of his own pressure for holding the
I'm
ball
not
too long.
surprised.
Yeah,
Wow.
and yeah, he's been pressured 12 times, and this is according to PFF, of course. 12 of his pressures were charged to himself. Now for Allen, he's always had this reputation of a guy that's like held onto the ball way too long. This year, it's actually been the exact opposite. He's actually out of 33 qualified quarterbacks, he's actually 23rd by terms of percentage of his pressures that have been on him.
Okay.
Which, is also not a good indictment of our offensive line, but our line, it's 15% left tackle, 22% left guard, 13% center, 34% right guard, and 24%.
Just say Cody Ford.
Yeah,
You don't
like
have to say
legitimately.
it.
And then 24% right tackle. And then, of course, everyone else, there's like a bunch of other numbers here that regard to like, tight ends and running backs and stuff like that. But
those are abysmal numbers from the guard spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
The percentage.
But it's not surprising.
The tackle spots are like kind of high, or they're higher than you would really like, but they're like, I think compared to the rest of the tackles in the league are kind of acceptable, because you usually expect that's where most of the pressures come from, is the tackle spots.
Yeah,
because
right.
Yeah, because up the middle, it's you're more likely to be on an island out on the edges there. Up the middle, you have the advantages of double teams and stuff like that. So when it reflects a lot like that in Kansas City's line, it's like, okay, like take advantage of the tackles here.
Yeah, and it all makes sense where he's bailing early and mixed with the I'm not going to say poor play, but not adequate play of the tackles. We're going to find out if our improvement on the defensive front really is going to live up to the expectations of the coaching staff and the front office, because clearly that was the MO, and Kansas City was the team in mind when going heavy on the defensive front. So we pretty much touched on everything regarding Kansas City's offense. Now let's move on to their defense. There's not a lot of positives to take from this unit. They've really had a very, very bad start to the season on all levels. The eye test, watching their games, I mean, what was that, Herm? What was that game where it was like the magnetic football guys and they kind of just spread? That's what it looks like. There's just holes everywhere.
Well,
I mean, there's just guys.
I had.
There's guys just. I'm sure. There's guys just standing around, and it's almost like running on air. They're not tackling well. They're not covering well, and just the gaping holes that you see is just alarming, because this is a defense that was top 10 in scoring the previous 2 seasons under Spagnuolo. I guess I'll kick it over to you, Herm, first. What sticks out to you in regards to the poor start that Kansas City's defense has shown thus far?
They haven't been able to get the other teams off the field, first and foremost. And I've had an opportunity to watch a couple of the Kansas City games, which was surprising. Even the Eagles moved the ball on them. They moved the ball extremely well. I mean, obviously, as you said there, I think they're 31st in the league and defensively, and giving up 31 points a game. So they can't get the other team off the field. Their third down percentage stinks. Their secondary, you have the Honey Badger back there. Tavarius Ward he's a good cornerback, but the way they've fallen off from last year, as you said, with it's been precipitous. It's unbelievable to a degree. I hope it doesn't come back. They don't come back together as a unit against us, and I really don't think so, because I think we have offensively we can put up points, and their defense is suspect to the point so far this year, and you have Spagnuolo, you have a great, highly respected defensive mind, coordinator, but they've stunk, and I can't pinpoint any one particular reason. All right, you had Frank Clark was out, and Chris Jones has had and I mean, both of them are formidable, but they have the one guy, Mike Dana, who's leading the team in sacks. He's got 3 sacks in the last 2 games in particular. He had 2 and 1. So I hope all of a sudden they don't rise up and find themselves against us, but I don't believe so, because I think our offense can take advantage of them as well, and we can score. I'm not going to give you my point total till later in the broadcast.
They can only get better. I mean, you can't really get worse. So, will they get a little bit better against the Bills? Maybe, but I don't think you're going to see some reinventing of their defense. And let me just put this stat out there: the average passer rating for quarterbacks against is 104.
Wow.
55% of the drives end in points. Their cornerbacks all are giving up over 100% in passer rating. So, it's, and their linebackers. I mean, I know Gay is the only guy that kind of worries me, and he's coming back. He at least has some speed, but the rest of them are just trash, in my opinion. Evan, what are your thoughts on that defense?
Honestly, there's not much to think right now, because it frankly doesn't even exist. And the only player that I'm particularly concerned about, and again, it has more to do with the overall matchup as opposed to because I think he might be slowed down a little bit with his injury. It's Chris Jones, because he's going to mess up whoever they put in front of him, regardless of how hurt he is. But there's still layers to that as well. So if they can keep him contained, let's say, not necessarily stop him, but if they can keep him relatively contained, I think Allen's going to have no problem carving through this defense.
And let's be fair, we're pretty used to our guards getting abused by good interior linemen, so it shouldn't be any surprise.
Yeah. This is something that's like completely off topic. Well, off topic by terms of what we're talking about right now. We were talking about it in the sort of last thing, but there's like a stat here I found about like the offensive line pressures that I just find hilarious that I want to share. It doesn't involve either team in this game, but I sorted each of them by percentage, and listen to Justin Herbert's percentages because they're hilarious. He's been charged with 2.4% of his own pressure, just one all year. Left tackle, 14%, pretty okay. Left guard, 23%, a little high, not great, but it's not awful. Center, 9.5, pretty good. They got Corey Linsley out there. Right guard, 11.9. Right tackle, 45%.
Wow.
And I think their right tackle should get by just on name alone. His name's freaking Storm Norton.
Maybe that's the only reason why he's there.
Yeah, Storm Norton.
when they're like, guys, when we called you the perfect storm, that's not what we meant.
As in the highest pressure in the league.
Yeah, really.
Well, thanks for that tidbit, Evan. That was
off topic, but I just wanted to share it.
Storm.
Good old Storm Norton. Maybe we'll pick him up in a year or two.
Yeah, that's our Bobby Hart. That's our Bobby Hart in like 2 years.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, outside of Matthew, there really isn't anyone of note in the secondary. Like you said, Jones is going to be someone or Clark we're going to be watching, but Chris Jones at defensive end is interesting. I'm not quite sure why. He just doesn't seem to. He lacks the speed, burst, and athleticism that makes a lot of these edge rushers, successful in today's NFL. So that's kind of square peg in a round hole, if you ask me. But I guess they really don't have much behind him. Like you said, some guy that I don't even know that Herm brought up is leading the team in sacks. So
Yeah,
maybe
Mike
that's your,
Dana. Right. You like
yeah.
looking at their stats. I was like, Mike Dana from Michigan.
Yeah. Well, Tom's got the right idea here. Let's kick the expletive out of them, boys. I'm with that, but it will remain to be seen. Let's move into our matchups. So each week we each choose a interesting matchup. It doesn't have to be the best one, just something intriguing that we like that we're looking at. I know Evan's chomping at the bit here. What is your
Evan.
matchup you're looking for, Evan?
My matchup is Chris Jones versus his wrist. Because honestly, but he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna beat the hell out of whoever they put at guard. It just depends on how healthy his wrist is and the severity at which he can beat that guard, whether it's Butker or Feliciano comes back or they keep Williams there, whoever it is. So yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on that. It's promising for the Bills that he didn't practice all week, but they're football players. I think he'll be able to play and be able to play up to his 95% of his potential. You're not going to play 100% if you're hurt to any degree, but I think honestly 75% Chris Jones is probably better than like some teams like best lineman, honestly.
Yeah. He's a player, and I'm sure he'll get an injection, and he's not going to feel his wrist until 6 hours after the game.
No.
Herm, what's your matchup you're most interested in watching?
Well, we've talked about it. It's our defensive line against the Kansas City offensive line, which you gave some props to earlier in the show. But it's twofold. Initially, we have to stop the run game. As I want to reiterate what I said earlier, they ran for 245 yards on us in that first game. In the championship game, they ran for 114 yards, but it wasn't as dominant, and also the time consuming. They took a lot of time off the clock in the first game with us, which was basically about a year ago because it was October of 20. So our defensive line matching up against their offensive line, we have to stop that run game. As we've done I think we've been very effective at that so far this year, but you have to look at who we're playing. Then there's always the pressure, and going back to the weakest links on the Kansas City offensive line so far this year have been the tackles, and also Patrick Mahomes. He's elusive, but if we can keep him in the pocket or make him hold on to the ball, you gave the percentage earlier, it's a drastic drop off when he gets rid of the ball quickly, and when we make him hold it just a little bit longer, and he makes some bad decisions, takes a lot of risk, and I think that can translate into turnovers with our back seven. But for me, it's our defensive line performing extremely well against that Kansas City offensive line. I think that'll dictate how our defense plays.
That's certainly a matchup I think is on everyone's mind, and no fault to you, Herm, but I think that is the go-to one for sure. That's the easy one to pick off.
Yeah.
I went
with the easy one.
Yeah, well, it's got to get covered, so I appreciate that. I had a couple. I was thinking about someone who may be an X factor, Sanders, because John Brown underperformed in the playoffs, and I believe Sanders is the upgrade there. So it would be nice to see if he could make that difference. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the Bills' red zone defense versus the Chiefs' red zone offense. This is strength on strength. The Bills' defensive or defense as a whole in the red zone has been at the top of the league. And Kansas City on offense is pretty much unstoppable down there. I think they're scoring 80% of the time, which is, they're scoring touchdowns 80% of the time. So that's unheard of. I mean, this is the old unstoppable force versus the immovable object. And ultimately, if we want to win this game, we're going to have to force them to kick field goals. They're going to get down there. It's just a matter of time. So, either way, I think this plays into whether or not we win or we lose. It's this matchup. Obviously, points are what makes the difference, and having two strength on strength is going to be something fun to watch. Unfortunately, in today's NFL, usually sides with the offense, but who knows? Maybe with the weather, which I want to bring up next because the weather helped me in last week's predictions. So speaking of the weather, it looks pretty bad. So Sunday night, showers, possibly thunderstorms. Great. Some storms can produce heavy rainfall. Chance of precipitation is 90%, 1 to 2 inches possible. So it's going to be another messy game. Hopefully with last week being able to play in the rain and kind of get the run game going, hopefully that will help us. But you never know. I mean, NFL players and NFL quarterbacks can throw in the weather, so it'll be interesting to see. Maybe it won't rain at all. Who knows? Maybe they're wrong. But let's get to our keys to victory. Evan, give me one for offense.
I think that Josh needs to, or the key is for Josh to just take what the defense gives him. Recognize that the defense isn't any good, and you don't need to necessarily make these insane plays to try to further the progress of the offense. You can't give up possessions against Kansas City, and if you let Kansas City basically win a possession on you on defense because of a bad decision that you made, it's not going to be good for trying to keep up with them. So he's got to, you know what? Honestly, I'd be content if he didn't throw a pass like 30. I'd be fine if he didn't throw one pass 30 plus yards the entire game.
Yeah, especially if there's weather involved. Herm,
even if the sky was perfect. Even if the sky was perfect, I'd be fine if he didn't throw a pass.
No deep balls.
No deep balls.
Herm, what about you? Give me an offensive key to victory.
Finishing drives. We will not beat Kansas City kicking 3 field goals in the first half as we did against the Texans. Okay, we were down there, halftime score 16-0, 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. I saw a stat I think they posted during the game that right now the Bills are leading the league in scoring once we get in, and consecutive scores once we're in the red zone. But that's including field goals and touchdowns. Of course, we were down there 4 times in the red zone in the first half. That 28 points became 16 points because we settled for field goals on 3 of those drives. We have to finish drives against Kansas City. We need touchdowns because, as you said, they're an offensive juggernaut and they score. And they're, 80%, you just said, for touchdowns in that red zone. I would love, if we can get 80%, I'd be a happy camper. But we need to finish drives to be successful Sunday night.
Yeah, I think Buffalo, I don't know if it's attempted or made, but 10 field goals to Kansas City has 3. So
yeah.
Right there, and that could very well be the difference in offense. I just want to throw up a comment here. Justin says the Chiefs' last 8 losses in 2 years, the opponent scored a lot of points. You can't win by running down the clock, putting up 30 points, and get a couple turnovers from the D to think we win. Now, I'm with you on the running the clock down, but let me give you a stat that'll roll into my key to victory. Is in the last 7 losses by the Chiefs, which include the previous 2, the opposing team has run for an average of 174 yards. So, Justin, you could say we shouldn't run down the clock, but these stats don't lie. The teams that have beat the Chiefs have ran the ball early and often. I think it was over 30 attempts. I think they averaged 33 attempts per game. So, any team can be mired in different ways, but there's a trend, and running the ball successfully against this Chiefs defense is my key to victory. So dominate the line of scrimmage and run the ball, especially if it's raining. Now I'm not going to say change your whole game plan, but use the running game to control the line of scrimmage and really bully that defense. I mean, kick this team down, or kick this team while they're down, specifically the defense, and control the line of scrimmage and control the tempo of the game. I truly believe I'm not the type of person that thinks that the Bills need to change a lot of who they are, but when it comes to this team, specifically Kansas City, I think there is a formula to beat them, and the numbers don't lie. It's not an outlier. It is many, many, many games. So, I think we need to dominate that line of scrimmage and we need to run the ball. Evan, give me a one key to victory for the defense.
I would be content with them trying the same game plan as they did last year in the regular season, where they basically dropped everyone back into coverage and just invited them to run the ball, because I feel like our run defense has been better this year.
Yes.
Because last year I think that's a fine strategy. The problem is that you need a good run defense. Bills didn't have a good run defense to begin with. So dropping guys back in coverage is just like, okay, thanks. Well, more than happy to take all these yards. And because of that, Mahomes did play a pretty inefficient game, but Edwards-Helaire freaking went off. So I think that this year, if they played more like that, then Helaire won't have he won't be quite as good this year. And they might be able to keep Mahomes to that same level of inefficiency.
I'm with you. I think
he was 21 for 26 in that first game, Mahomes. So he was pretty efficient because he didn't have to throw that much. He threw the ball.
But if you're only completing 21 passes, I think anyone will take that.
Yeah, and
he only threw 26 because of that run game. Exactly. So, yeah.
The game plan was not the issue; it was the lack of execution. And, our run defense thus far has been much improved.
Oh, I agree.
And, so that's a good point, Evan.
Yeah.
You have anything to add to that?
And I'm sorry, I just went to go look at his stats right now. His average depth of, he had 225 yards, 80.8% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But he also had an average depth of target of 6.5 yards.
Right.
So his receivers were doing a lot of the work for him after that. He was doing a lot of underneath stuff. He was, again, they were relying on short, quick passes, sort of taking advantage of the fact that, they were solely playing the run in a way.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not
I can only think of one
intermediate.
I can only think of one intermediate play to Travis Kelce that really was, the difference. The rest, like you said, was underneath.
Yeah. And to actually give a second key to defense, I suppose.
Oh, no, not allowed.
No, I want to because we talked about this before the show started, and I want to get a chance to bring up his name again.
Well,
because you know how much I love this guy. Is that Tremaine Edmonds needs to play a game this week against the Chiefs? Because I went and double checked. The game he played against the Texans was phenomenal.
That was something. Right,
that was 94 rated 94%, right?
Yeah, that's the highest grade he's ever had. First 90+ grade he's ever had, I believe. But no, last in the AFC Championship game last year, I guess this year technically, last season, he gave up six. He gave up 6 passes. He gave up. He was targeted 7 times. Gave up 6 passes. 5 of them were for first downs. The only one that wasn't for a first down was for a touchdown. So
yeah, he was abysmal.
Situationally, he needs to clean that up. Honestly, I would be okay if he gave up a bunch of 9-yard completions. If those were on 3rd and 10, fine by me.
Well, yeah. I think anyone would
Yeah.
sign up for that.
Yeah, or even 2nd and 10, honestly. It gives you a chance, you know?
Yeah. Herm, keys to victory for the defense.
Well, for me, uh, it's Kelsey, 13 catches in that championship game. I think that was a record for catches in a championship game. It seemed like every time they needed a third down play, he threw the ball to Kelsey. Kelsey, it seemed like he was open all night in that championship game. I mean, we didn't get blown out, but every time Mahomes wanted to make a play, he went to Kelsey. He made 13 catches. We've had some problems covering tight ends in the past, and he's perhaps the best tight end in the game right now. If not, he's in the top 3. So in the midst of their run game, when Pat Mahomes wants to get rid of the ball quickly, he's looking into Kelsey's going up that seam where he'll turn around in our zone, just find a soft spot, sit there, boom. They're picking up 8, 9, 10, 11, and sometimes he goes a little bit deeper. But for him to get 13 catches, if he catches the ball 13 times Sunday night, we're going to lose the game because that's problematic. We've done a good job. Our safeties, I still think we have the best tandem in the league. So I would think that's going to be a point of emphasis to Leslie Frazier and the rest of our defensive gurus, all the position coaches. But to me, that is key. We need to, if we can shut him down, we got Tyreek Hill, as you say, on the other side. I mean, on the outside. But our run defense is fantastic. But to me, limiting Kelsey as much as we possibly can is one of the big keys to me.
You mentioned the safety play. Unfortunately, I believe Hill will neutralize our safety play because you need to have at least one of those guys over the top, and that is what you put a lot of pressure on the linebackers. Then even in a zone defense, I mean,
that's right.
Kelsey is finding the seams between the second and third level. So I think you hit it right on the head with that matchup because he, like you said, if he has a game like he did in the AFC Championship game, chances are we are going to lose.
Yeah.
I mentioned already that our red zone defense versus the red zone offense, so I'm not going to choose that. But what I will say is stating the obvious: get pressure with the front 4. We drafted 2 guys in the first and second round, respectively. We picked up Obata. Obviously, you saw the transformation with AJ Epinesa, and he was also a draft pick. Now it's time to put up or shut up. We have first round draft picks, stars back. We have first round draft picks up and down the line. When Patrick Mahomes is under pressure, he's only completing 46% of his passes. You can't do that by blitzing him because when you blitz him, he's completing 77%. So, everyone knows how to beat Patrick Mahomes. It's just, can you do it? So, point blank period, you got to get pressure with your front 4. And I think there's a lot of telling things that'll happen in this game, whether, it'll be very clear from the onset if we're able to kind of get over that hill of, playing with the Chiefs. We're on the same talent level, but can we actually do it? So yeah, that wraps up that segment. Now let's move on to our favorite, as always, the 5-day forecast. And I made this cool little graphic that'll kind of drop us right there. Look at that.
Ooh.
All righty. So last week it wasn't too great for you guys. You had a couple misses, but that's okay. You got a chance to make up for it. I think the running total is I'm at 13 out of 20, and you both are 10 out of 20. So we'll get into our first question, and that will be for Monday.
Do we need to audit those stats?
You can listen. You want to fact check them? We'll get a Facebook. We'll get somebody hired at Facebook to check them for us. The Bills have more rushing yards than the Chiefs.
Cloudy.
Okay.
Cloudy.
Evan?
I'm going to go cloudy as well with that. simply because I do think that the Bills are going to try the same thing, invite them to run again. And the Bills aren't going to be super apt to run the ball. So there you go.
I will agree with you with the first part, but I think we are going to run the ball, and I'm going to go clear. So you guys have a chance to catch up, make up some ground. Herm, Allen does not turn the ball over.
Clear.
Oh,
Clear.
yeah. Evan, I already know your answer.
Yep.
Cloudy.
Yeah. He'll turn it over once somehow. Even if it's like, 2 minutes left, the game's all wrapped up. He'll throw a pick or something or somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go cloudy. I'm going to go cloudy as well because, again, you never know what happens in the rain. That's a slippery ball. Who knows? Maybe no, I'm not even going to say it. No finger issues in this night game.
No.
Yeah, no, Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Or Stafford. Didn't he injure his finger too?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Compression.
Well, and let me say this: about a half hour before we came on, the weather forecast over there now they're saying 60 degrees, and it might rain in the second. They've kind of cleared it, and it may rain in the second half or not at all.
Oh.
So
we shall find out.
So wait,
this I'm at my weather. I'm at my weather.gov, Herm. The government doesn't lie.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't rain. But yeah, I had to go when you had weather in the script, I had to go take a look. And
of course, of course.
I'd love to be a weatherman. You can get paid so well to be wrong.
Oh yeah,
you're not wrong as long as you don't say 0 or 100.
Yeah, really.
The forecast.
That's it. Yeah, listen, we're there. Wednesday, Herm, Knox extends his touchdown streak.
I'm gonna say cloudy, just because he's gonna get some attention paid to him more than he usually does, and I think our outside guys or Beasley will be getting the touchdowns, and Moss. So I say cloudy.
All right, cloudy. Evan,
I'm gonna go with cloudy as well because I feel like they're our receivers match up better against their corners than Knox matches up against their linebackers. I'm a big fan of Willie Gay.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a great all-around player. I think he's really good, and I think he, with another couple of years, I think he could be a top linebacker in the league, honestly. But yeah, I think he'll control Knox.
I'm gonna go clear. For some reason, I feel like Knox is going to end up with double-digit touchdowns this year, and I think we're going to see a lot of those plays that we saw. We saw that RPO last week, and then that push pass against Indianapolis, where who knows if that was even supposed to happen. But I just think with the chemistry between those two, when they try to run with Allen and he just kind of finds his way into open space, I can see something like that. And I don't know, was it a rush or was it a pass last year in the AFC Championship? Wasn't it like a little pop pass in the AFC Championship game to Knox for the first touchdown?
I remember it now. I remember it, but I can't remember how the play started.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't either.
It was one of those motions, but I don't know if it was if it was a pass or a handoff technically. But yeah, I'm going to go clear with that one. Herm, for Thursday, Mahomes is sacked 2 or more times.
2 or more. I'm going clear on that one. I think we're ready to get him.
Evan?
I'm going to go clear with that one as well. That's just a gut feeling.
Let's make it a trifecta.
Yeah.
We can't make up any ground on that one.
This one's a wash.
Either way, yeah.
Right.
This one's my favorite one. 2 or more unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Herm.
On us?
On it altogether.
On both teams?
Yes. Not combined.
No. I'll go 2 or more, cloudy. I think
Okay.
both teams will be a little disciplined. They know this game's important for both of us.
I agree. I'm going cloudy as well.
It was quick cloudy there. I like that one, Evan.
Oh, I'm going clear. I think it's definitely going to get chippy. Whether more so at the beginning and the end, depending on, if especially if it's not close in the end. I definitely think there's going to be, like we saw last year. Well, originally I was going to say somebody gets ejected because somebody should have been ejected last year for throwing the punch. Who was it? Was that Clark or Jones?
Yeah, he threw the punch. You're right, and stayed in the game. You're right.
Feliciano, yeah. So
yeah.
I was gonna go with the ejection, but I was like, I don't know. That's some of them. You got to get 2 penalties to get ejected, unless you throw a punch. So I went with the.
Josh got a little chippy, right? You remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't bring up Okafor. He got the ball tossed at his head.
That's it. That's right.
I completely forgot, but we still have time. Game predictions. Herm, give us a score and
I got us 38-28. Buffalo.
Bills.
Yeah, we're gonna win this game.
And then the other thing is, outside of the score, how do you expect this game to go? What type of vibe are you getting from it?
Well, I've probably talked since last year, and I think you know that, Travis. I felt that Kansas City was the roadblock to us getting over the hump. They beat us in the regular season and then the championship game. So this is the metric. There's been a lot of, this is not a big game. It's week 5. There's still a lot of, but from a psychological standpoint, I feel we're ready now to get over that hump. It's a regular season game, but we have an opportunity to go to 4-1 and beat Kansas City, and also put a third loss on them in the conference, because we still look forward to that home field advantage. So I think right now our offense, I think our offense can score on any team in the league, and we seem to be getting better. I don't feel we played well in the Houston game. As I said, we're up 16-0. We should have put up 60 in that game. The game prior to that, Miami, we could have scored more points. So I don't think anybody we can put up points on, our offense can put up points on any team in the league. Now we're coming into a Kansas City defense, which is wounded or weak, whichever word you want to use. So I think Kansas City is they're an offensive juggernaut. But if this game comes down to whoever can outscore each other, I believe that we can outscore Kansas City and win this game. That's why I went with 38-28.
Well, I hope you're right for sure. Evan, how do you think this game unfolds? And then give us a prediction.
I think the Chiefs win 34-31. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I just think the Bills aren't quite ready yet.
Okay.
How do you think the game will play out? Like, what are some of your expectations outside of the point total?
I feel like Andy Reid's going to come up with something that none of us are really thinking of, and it's going to be like just a unique approach to the game. I can say all I want about the Bills baiting the run, but Reid could come up with different weird play calls to neutralize that, and maybe even try to get a couple play calls going that can actually get them a deep ball. The Bills are the only team that haven't given up a ball or a pass that's gone more than 20 yards in the air so far this year.
Yeah.
So I think that ends this week, but how much will be the question.
Yeah, I mean, you're not off base at all. I think we'll finally get the back and forth game that we've expected. I think the last 2 games didn't really live up to the hype. The first one was close, but it was like death by 1,000 cuts, and it was kind of a boring game. Second game got out of hand early. I think the Bills are going to focus on the run more, and I think the Bills are going to be able to stop the run. I think they're going to employ that. They're going to invite the team to the Kansas City Chiefs to run, but I think they're going to be able to stop it. I think a timely turnover and the last team with the ball wins, and I'm going to go with the prediction 31-27 Kansas City. I don't want to be disingenuous. I don't think. Let me just say this. I don't think that the Bills can't win. They can certainly win. It's just with the uncertainty of Milano playing. That's huge. And also, if the Chiefs lose this game, just think of the impact that that's going to have on their season.
That's right.
It's three conference games that they lose. They're already last in their division. This is not just a talented team. This is an extremely well-coached team. And as much as we think the Bills have, need this game more, from a fan perspective, because again, if they lose this game, we're going to be like, well, if we can't beat them 3 times, if we get 3 shots at them, we can't beat them. Are we ever going to beat them? I understand that. But I think the implications for the Kansas City Chiefs are just higher. They need this game. It's early, obviously, but the implications as far as seeding, they lose this game, you're talking wild card. You're not even talking. You may not even be talking division for a couple of weeks. So I think that realistically, at home, all those fans, those seeding implications, I think is what leads me to pick Kansas City. But then again, that's why they play the game, right?
That's why they play the game.
Herm, you got any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No. Other than I think it's our time. I think we have the better defense, and as I just said, I believe that our offense right now is moving into another gear, and we can score on anybody. So we're up against a team right now, a defense that gives up a lot of points. This could be the game where I don't feel I'm greedy. They can fulfill my greed. That would be great. I got them with 38, but I'd love to see us get in the 40s on Kansas City.
That would be sweet. Evan, give us some closing thoughts.
So I got a wedding on Saturday, and then I got Thanksgiving lunch on Sunday. Thankfully, I'm not going to miss the game this week, which is awfully nice. And I'm going to be sitting at Thanksgiving lunch, super nervous about the result. And I hope and because of that, I hope I'm not too quiet around my mother and my grandparents. Yeah, I'm just hoping that I can have a good meal and then come home and watch the Bills kick some butt.
That's right.
Well, it's interesting. While you're
it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you get a football game on Thanksgiving night. We get a football game on Thanksgiving night. It works out.
Well, technically,
technically,
it's not Thanksgiving. It's
No.
Technically Monday is Thanksgiving.
Monday is, and that's my
Herm,
wife's
you
birthday.
would know.
My wife's birthday
there
is
you go.
Sunday. Here we go, 10-10.
Oh.
I told her she gets to watch the football game, Bills football game with me, Trav, at home. I won't
I'm
be
sure
traveling
she's
out.
thrilled about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just end it with this: we've been talking about the process for 4+ years. First, it was to get to the playoffs. Then it was, to kind of rebuild. We got there a little early. We want to get rid of the dead cap. We wanted to build the culture. After that, we got a legitimate playoff berth. We didn't win in the playoffs. Following year, we blew teams out. We didn't just win, we dominated. We got a couple victories under our belt in the playoffs. Now the next step, or the evolution, is to beat the Chiefs. I mean, make it to the Super Bowl, you got to beat the Chiefs. And I guess it's just the slight pessimist in me that gives us, gives Kansas City the edge. I don't know. Yeah, I was just trying to be objective, but realistically, we've taken that next step every single year. This trajectory that the Bills are on is very, very linear. And, who's to say that, maybe this isn't the game, but I'm sure we'll see them in the playoffs. And ultimately, this game doesn't matter as much because I'm sure we're going to see them again. But I just wanted to end with that, is that we've always made that next step, and the process is real. And on that note, I just will read off. Thank you for tuning in, Kenny. We appreciate you sticking around and enjoying the show.
Like that.
So let's hope me and Evan are wrong. Let's have Herm on his high horse next Friday. Until then, keep it locked in with Cold Front Report. Go Bills.
Go Bills.